Well, welcome to a new edition of WIN TV. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer newspaper. I hope you've had a chance to pick up a copy of this week's Washington Informer. It is available on newsstands for free right now. And so we are so excited. We always are excited every time we get a chance to publish a new edition every week. These are trying times for newspapers across the country, but we are still working and serving the community to the best of our ability. So pick up a copy of the Washington Informer at your local newsstand. And you can always read the Informer online in our digital edition. Just go to www.washingtoninformer.com. And there's a PDF, but also all of the stories that are in the paper are there on the website as well. If you're watching on Facebook, please go ahead and hit share so your followers can see the broadcast. And if you're watching on Twitter, be sure to follow us, and we will most definitely follow you back. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can see all of the past editions of WIN TV, all of our past shows and guests. And, we're building almost our own little history channel here at Washington Informer TV. No spaces, just straight Washington Informer TV there on YouTube. We have a packed show today because, as you know, the entire community is getting ready for the MLK holiday, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. National or federal holiday on Monday, January 16th. You know, Dr. King's birthday is on Sunday, January the 15th. He would be 94 years old in April, had it not been for an assassin's bullet that took him away from us in 19, did I forget the year? Was it 1968? But I know my guest will help me with that. And I'm embarrassed for not remembering the date specifically, but I'm getting all these numbers in my head. But at any rate, he may be gone, but he's still with us in spirit. And that's why, his demise is not really as important as the life that he lived and the service that he gave. Our guests today are Emil Thompson, chairman of the DC Public Service Commission, who's here to share information with us about the Clean Energy Summit. DC has some goals that it's trying to reach. We as residents are going to be a part of that. So this is a really important segment of the show. We're also going to hear from Phil Pinnell, a community activist and the Ward 8 leader of the Anacostia Coordinating Council, along with Andy Shalal, owner of Busboys and Poets, about the response to the ongoing gun violence in the city. Ron Moten, who's no stranger to anybody, any household, any person in the DMV, of Don't Mute DC, and co-founder of the former Peaceaholics. And he does so much more. We'll be here to talk about the MLK holiday conversations and crank events that will take place tomorrow. And you don't want to miss that, but we want to share all the things that you can participate in. And of course, the MLK Holiday Committee leaders are here with us: Stuart Anderson, Reverend Wanda Thompson, Dr. Nicole Johnson Douglas, and Minister Norman Nixon. They're all going to talk to us about the MLK holiday events beginning tomorrow through Monday. And so we hope that you've got your calendars out and you'll begin to mark dates and times that you can come and join all of us in the commemoration of the life and legacy of Dr. King. And last but not least, we're going to have Nolan Carr with us, who is the marketing communications, the community relations manager at AmeriGroup, who is our lead sponsor for the MLK Health Fair that will be taking place on Monday. So, having said all that, we're going to go on and jump into our news broadcast by Curtis Knowles, and I'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Do not go away.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. Karan Blake, a 13-year-old student who many describe as a lighthearted, charismatic being, was killed during the early mornings of Saturday when a district resident allegedly shot him on the 1000 block of Quincy Street Northeast. The alleged shooter, who called police after shooting Karan and performed CPR, approached Karan believing that he was a teenager tampering with vehicles in the neighborhood. The name of Karan's alleged killer still hasn't been released to the public, nor have they been criminally charged. MBD Chief Robert Conti said the alleged shooter was black, but not of law enforcement. A day later, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser confirmed the alleged shooter's employment with the district government. Beyond that, city officials have declined to speak further on the specifics of the investigation. Even with requests that residents respect the process, which includes the collection of evidence and a grand jury investigation, many people, including Kalan's grandfather, Sean Long, continue to demand accountability and transparency. The 6-year-old boy accused of shooting his Virginia teacher on Friday with a gun he took from his home is unlikely to be charged, but his parents could be criminally culpable depending on if they properly secured the weapon. The student's mother legally purchased the gun used in the shooting, according to Newport police, but officials haven't specified how the boy got hold of it or if it was safely secured. The boy, who hasn't been publicly identified because of his age, shot his first-grade teacher, Abigail Zwerner, while she taught a classroom of about 20 students at Rich Neck Elementary School. The child was under a court-ordered temporary detention and being treated at a medical facility. He has 96 hours to appear in front of a judge who will determine whether he will continue treatment or what the next steps in the case will be. Flights across the United States resumed Wednesday morning several hours after the Federal Aviation Administration suffered a computer outage that forced it to halt all departures nationwide while it scrambled to resolve the issue. The FAA said the crippling delays that affected thousands of flights appear to have been caused by a problem in the Notice to Air Mission System, or the NOTAM, which sends pilots vital information they need to fly. A corrupted file affected both the primary and the backup systems, a senior government official said Wednesday evening. The FAA also commented saying, quote, "The FAA is continuing a thorough review to determine the root cause of the Notice to Air Mission Systems outage."
All right. Thank you, Curtis. I was waiting for you to close out on that, but that's okay. We're ready to go because I want to bring on Emil Thompson, chair of the Public Service Commission now, to talk about the Energy Summit that's coming up in a couple. It's coming up soon, but also to talk about just what that means, what the clean energy goals for the District of Columbia, what that means for us regular people as residents of the city. So welcome to the show, Emil. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Denise. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
I appreciate that. So I just want to jump quickly into, well, first of all, you can give, if you don't mind, just give a little bit of background on the Public Service Commission, but then we want to talk about the summit.
Yes, really quickly, the Public Service Commission is the body that regulates the utilities here in the district. So we're talking about PEPCO, Washington Gas, and Landline Verizon Services. Our job is to make sure they provide safe, reliable, and affordable services to all the ratepayers in the district. And also, as of 2018, we are required to make sure that the utilities are doing their part to ensure that they help us reach the district's clean energy goals.
And if you don't mind, could you share what some of those goals are?
Yes. So by 2045, the district is supposed to reach carbon neutrality. A little bit closer in, by 2032, all electricity is supposed to come from renewable sources. And then finally, of that electricity, 10% is supposed to be generated within DC.
It's interesting because I was having a conversation with Caleb Benjamin, who is our environmental justice reporter, and we were talking about gas stoves. And it seems as though one of the goals that falls under one of those categories that you mentioned is new housing. Now, I might have made this up, so correct me if I'm wrong, but new housing that will, I think, no longer, at a certain date, will no longer be able to, I guess, include gas stoves, brand new housing, not the housing that you already live in. But explain that to me, because that's a practical thing that people need to understand.
Right. And so the DC Council has passed a number of measures to try and reduce our carbon footprint. And one of those measures is a provision that will limit new housing and certain new commercial buildings from having new gas hookups. And so that will, of course, affect the ability to have gas stoves, as well as using natural gas as a heating source in those homes. So you would have electric stoves and electric heat.
Yeah, that's something we want to explore a little bit more as we go along, because I think the summit, and if you don't mind sharing with us when the summit is and what you all plan to unveil there at the summit, but it just lets residents know that the role that we all are going to play in this clean energy environment that we plan to move into. So tell us about the summit.
Yes. So first, the Clean Energy Summit is next week, next Wednesday, January 18th. We have a number of panels, and the main focus of the Clean Energy Summit is to ensure that people know what's coming in the Clean Energy Summit. We hear a lot about clean energy, and we hear pieces here and there, but what does that really mean, and what does that mean to us? And so first we'll have three panels. Well, first we'll have a keynote address by the former chairman of the DC Public Service Commission, who is now the acting FERC chairman, Willie L. Phillips. He'll give the keynote address, and then we will have a panel that will talk about a lot of the federal money that's coming out in terms of the Inflation Reduction Act and the IIJA, Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, and what that really means to the district. So we'll have a panel that discusses that. We'll then have a panel that talks about workforce and supplier diversity and how to secure the supply chain. And then we're going to talk about affordability, because affordability is a huge piece of this. We want to make sure that as we make this clean energy transition, people aren't burdened by these costs. And so what can we do to protect those who don't have the same means as other groups of people and to keep the costs affordable?
You know, when you talk, you say affordability is key, and if I were to put them in my list, I probably would have said workforce, because of course, if you have employment, and then you can pay whatever the costs are, even though I agree you don't want things that are unaffordable. But it sounds like it may be opening up some new opportunities, new job opportunities for district residents, training opportunities particularly, but then jobs as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, with the clean energy transition, there are a number of jobs that are going to be needed to support this. And this is going to be a huge wealth creator. And the last thing you want to do is to have DC residents not aware of opportunities to get into this field. And there are a lot of opportunities out already. I'll talk about one quickly that's really available for the young people in the district. And it's through the DC Infrastructure Academy. And this academy provides training free of cost. And it also provides a stipend, so that while you're getting this training, you are still earning money, so that you can take the time to really do this training. But it sets you up in fields with Pepco and Washington Gas. It also sets you up with fields in the solar industry. So this is an amazing opportunity to get trained, to have that pathway going forward. So to your point, you have the money to be able to afford to pay those bills.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, I'm maybe putting you on the spot here, but because we always say the district is not a place that's program or resources poor, right? It's connecting people to those resources. So are folks, I mean, how are you all doing with the academy? Are people really signing up and participating?
So people are certainly participating. And as it stands now, I believe the classes are typically at capacity, but it's also one of those things that, the more demand, the greater we can expand that academy. And so it's something it's a real thing that again provides a pathway to the residents of the District of Columbia, and it's a pathway where you don't need a college degree or a master's degree to start out in. Right? They are going to provide you with the training. What they need you to do is to be dedicated, to want to work, and they're going to provide the rest.
And I'm sure there are employers at the door waiting for people to graduate from those programs so they can put them in real jobs.
Yes, I can tell you firsthand, because I've been down to the academy. I've talked to people. If you successfully complete these programs, 9 times out of 10, Pepco or Washington Gas will either find you a position directly with those companies or with companies they contract with. And so these are great jobs that pay more than a living wage. And again, this academy is open to DC residents.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And we're talking jobs. I'm kind of going off topic here, but talking jobs and also business opportunities, because I'm sure that that's probably one of the things that the summit will look at too, where the
Yes.
business opportunities are.
Yeah. So there's like I said, there's certainly a lot of money that's coming from the federal government to aid in this clean energy transition, and so DC will receive its share of that money, and so there are going to be a lot of different opportunities available for businesses to apply for funding. The commission also has a number of opportunities where we have put out some pilot projects where we are encouraging DC companies to apply to help in the clean energy transition. And so this summit will be very informative because it will help lay out a lot of these possibilities and a lot of these opportunities so that people are able to take advantage of them.
Anything else you can share with us about the summit that I didn't give you a chance to talk about because I got you off?
No, that's fine. One thing I will touch on that I always want to make sure I touch on, and we'll talk about it at the summit more so in depth, are a lot of the utility discount programs that we have in the district. And we always are encouraging people to sign up for them. We have a set of programs for senior residents, and we also have them for low to moderate income residents. And these are programs that you sign up for, and a lot of times they make significant discounts to your utility bills, and we're talking about 50%, almost up to 50% of your bill. And one of the unfortunate things is we always we budget for an X amount of people, and we always have less than that amount of people participate. And so, if there are 2 takeaways today or 3 takeaways, it's of course Clean Energy Summit, 2, it's workforce and business development opportunities, and then lastly, affordability through our utility discount programs.
I would love, and maybe that's a story we'll do one day, to say, and hopefully I'll be here to see it, but sort of a vision of what the city will look like, let's say in 2030. How different, it's, how we always at the end of the year always say what's in and what's out, and what, based on the clean energy goals, what will be in and what will be out. And you mentioned one, which might be, stoves and other things that are that utilize gas and automobiles.
Yes.
Energy. I mean, what do you call them? Electric automobiles will be in, and the other ones will be out, which means I need to get a new car. But anything else you want to mention?
No, I just would encourage people. I know you guys put the banner up again, but I would encourage anybody who would like to listen in at the Clean Energy Summit. Please register. It's free. We have a virtual platform so you can log in from your computer. Unfortunately, we are at capacity for in-person seats, but we still have unlimited amount of seats virtually. And so if you go to the website, dcpsc.org/CES, you'll find a lot more information.
Well, I just want to let folks know that, as I mentioned, our reporter, Caleb Benjamin, who is covers the environment for the Washington Informer, will be there. And so we'll be writing about that in our probably the issue after that, because it starts Wednesday. So, or you can read stories online. So we want to make sure we do our part to keep the community informed. So thank you so very much for being with us, Emil. All right. Look forward to seeing you soon again.
Yes. Thank you.
All righty. Have a great one. So I'm sure you all saw all of the news this week regarding a movement that has been started in the District of Columbia. And 2 of those individuals who announced it and are the power behind that movement, Phil Pinnell, Andy Shalal, as well as Ron Moten. So I'd like to bring the 3 of you all onto the show, and let's have a conversation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Andy, I think I want to start with you, and just talk about. I mean, the Ward A community was very, very happy to have you at Busboys and Poets here. And one of the concerns we always have all throughout the city is safety. Ron talks about it all the time, public safety. And so talk about, how this Thou Shalt Not Kill campaign was relaunched. And actually, it's you or anybody else that wants to talk about that. But I'll start with you, Andy.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Denise. It's always a pleasure to be with you. But this is when we opened the Busboys and Poets in Anacostia, the whole idea was to create a community space where people come together and have a place to have a cup of coffee, meet a friend, or whatever they need to do. Because oftentimes, I remember for many years, people had to come across. I think there's some noise in the background.
Yeah, there is. If somebody can mute themselves, or Chevy can do that to make sure that we're fine. Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, I apologize. But anyway, when this unfortunate incident, number 203 of the killings that happened last year alone in the District of Columbia, happened in front of our store, it actually brought it very, very close to home, literally and physically. It brought it close to our home. I was there at night when it happened around 9:30 p.m. and there was a whole bunch of yellow tape around, and realized that the next day we didn't realize that it was one of our employees that in fact got gunned down. And so, the idea of contacting some of the community leaders here, Ron and Phil and others, was the first thing that I did to make sure that we as a community do not forget the idea that there is a lot of killings that continue to be here. And sometimes, I know we talked at the press conference the other day, people do grow numb after a while because they assume that just the way it is, and that people are trying to do their best in order to stem this problem, and they leave it up to others to take care of it. So we decided to sort of take it upon ourselves as a community to come together and say, listen, this is not business as usual. We have to stop everything in its tracks in order for us to be able to acknowledge there's a problem. In order for this to happen, we have to acknowledge there's a problem. That's the number one thing. And sometimes we talk about statistics, like things have improved. So the number of people killed from the year before till this year has dropped by 10%. Well, that's not acceptable. Still people are getting gunned down. And as Ron mentioned, there's a lot of people that are getting shot that may not be killed, hundreds of people. So we're talking about, at the press conference, there was something really eerie that happened when Phil Pinnell asked, how many of you here have been touched by gun violence or know somebody that has been killed? Almost every single hand in the entire room, about 100 people, raised their hand. That tells you a lot. So one thing is we have to acknowledge there's a problem. We can't keep putting, lipstick on this pig. It has to stop. The next thing we have to do is be able to show up, because part of leadership is showing up. And then we have to make it a citywide problem. It's a citywide issue. It's not just a Ward 8 issue. It's not just an Anacostia issue. It's not an East of the River issue. It's a citywide problem. And then we need to reach the young people. We need to be able to reach them. We need to make sure that we are in touch with the people that have been disenfranchised, that are disconnected. And then, as many people said, there's so many resources that we have in the city. It's a matter of allocation. It's a matter of will. It's a matter of political will to say, we're going to not just nickel and dime and basically pay hush money to a lot of organizations, but really put money where it belongs, in the services that these people need. We know what the issues are. We know how to fix them. We know that it requires a lot of resources, not just nickels and dimes. Right. And we have the resources, and this is the time to do it.
Thank you. And I think all of that came across really clearly on the day of the press conference. Phil, you want to jump in? Because, I always say, you have people who spend their lives doing other things, but this whole violence piece has pulled a lot of people together who feel as though there's something more they need to do. Phil, can you jump in and talk about, how ACC has been a part of this movement?
Oh, absolutely, Denise. And I want to thank you for making this Friday the 13th a very lucky day by being with you and your guest. I have been very heartened by about people who've been calling and texting and emailing me since we launched the movement earlier this week. And the folks have said they are not going to attend any meetings. They're not members of organizations. They have no money to give. They're not going on any marches, but please bring them aside so they can put in their window or in their yard. And this movement, like at a very basic and a very simplistic level, gives people throughout the city the opportunity to weigh in visually in terms of expressing not only just their concern, but like their outrage, like about what's going on. So it's so good to see this movement just organically just come together like this, and with so many organizations that want to be on board, and and it is a blessing, Denise, that that the MLK holiday parade is upon us, and Dr. King was a victim of gun violence. And by the way, he was assassinated on April the 4th, 1968. I was a senior in high school, and the signs will be all through the parade. And by the way, if people want to pick up the posters, they can pick them up at any Busboys and Poets location. And hopefully, as the weeks go on, we will have lawn signs so that people can display them in front of their homes.
Thanks. And I want to make sure that we at least give a shout out to former council member, at-large member Bill Lightfoot, who is also the financial engine behind this, and the originator, actually, of this campaign, 20, 30 years ago? So yes, wanted to mention that. Ron, you've been out here, like Andy said, the issues, you've provided programs, you stood in the middle of gangs who were fighting with each other, you turned lives around, and you were a part of this as well. So tell us how you think the impact of this movement will have. I mean, of course, we know it won't make a difference by itself, but we don't know. What do you think?
I think everything needs a spark. I remember when Anthony Williams was the mayor, and I think 1 month we had 13 children shot and killed, and the community came together and said that this is it. There was a commitment put together by the city, and everybody rolled their sleeves up and came together and addressed the issue. And you saw that tide reverse, and things were put in place. And then somewhere down the line, more initiatives and more resources were put together in a strategic manner, where we had 4 straight years from 2008 to 2012 of the murder rate and violence down drastically in Washington, D.C. And that meant everybody working together, everybody holding each other accountable. And if we're not holding each other accountable and not working together, we can't expect people in the community to follow what we're doing or what we want to see.
Exactly. And we're having some technical problems here. We can hear voices, but the video seems to be sticking. But we're going to continue on because I think that yesterday, I'm going to bring this up. Right in front of my office, you all know where we are on Martin Luther King Avenue. I can say from September or August when the school year starts till June when the school year ends, I can anticipate at least on a monthly basis, maybe at least 5 or 6 fights through the month. And lately they've been girls, right? And so, how are we getting these messages to the young people? How are we helping them to change their behavior, to understand that violence, even though it's fistfights, that they actually perform for in front of audiences? That's kind of how I look at it. But how do we get the message to them to understand? And is this sign, this poster campaign, a way of doing that? Has anybody had a chance to really talk to any young folks to see what their feelings are about, the message? Don't all speak at once.
I think that we have to reach the young people where they're at.
Yeah.
A lot of things, like you just said, what we see young people do, they do it for attention.
Mm-hmm.
What we have to think about is if we go back to the day when we had no pretty schools, no pretty libraries, no pretty recreation centers, one thing that was happening was those buildings were still being utilized as platforms for our children to get positive attention. Right now, our young people have a way of getting attention that is not good. And we have to just think about it. I remember when we had go-go's and teen shows for children. There's nowhere in the DMV where young people can go and live like we live. So what they do is they create their own form of entertainment, right? And it's to get likes on social media. And sometimes that's fighting. They get a lot of attention, they get a lot of likes, right? And they consider that love, right? So likes become love instead of the love that we should give them in the community. Also, there has to be accountability, right? Our young people, if you look, and we're going to talk about this on Saturday, a lot of them are being released into our community after committing heinous crimes, carjackings, etc., without any wraparound services put in place to ensure that they don't recommit that crime again. So you can't just let a child out after they carjack somebody this morning, let them out this evening, and then we don't have something in place to ensure that they don't do it again or they're not killed. Like several of the children we've seen killed recently that have had boxes on their legs. So, I mean, it's a holistic approach, but we know that there are different angles that we have to work. But one of the things I say, we have to give the children positive platforms to get positive attention, or they're going to do negative things to get that attention.
And I don't want to get us so focused as if the young people are the problem. I don't want us to go there. But I know that we care about them most because they are our future, as we say. But, you know, when we think about the shooting of the children on a bus, those were adults, it appears, who were involved in that gun violence where children were hit by bullets. So, you know, Andy, yeah, go ahead.
The other thing I think I wanted to add to what Ron was saying is that you have to start really early. You can't just pick it up when the kids are already having problems, because by the time they get to middle school and high school, they're kind of already formed in many ways. Their ideas are already in place. You have to start preschool, kindergarten, teach them how to resolve conflict without having to revert to a fist or a gun or a knife or whatever they have to revert to. You know, those are skills that they need to have. I'm not diminishing the trauma of poverty, the trauma of living in really horrible conditions sometimes, but I do believe that we can pick up some of those pieces by making sure that our kids learn how to interact with each other. I hire employees that don't know how to act with each other, that end up, we had a bartender one time jump over the bar to beat up somebody, a bartender that is at work, because her boyfriend came with another girl and she was getting mad at her. Like, it blows my mind, you know, to see stuff like that, but it happens and it's real. So, you know, we have to start really early. I sat down with her and I said, have you ever had any conflict resolution, you know, conversations with anybody, how to deal with conflict without having to revert to having to jump over a bar to beat up somebody and lose your job? She was a great bartender, but it never occurred to her that there's a different way to do it.
Phil, I really want to talk about ACC too, the Anacostia Coordinating Council. You are what I call the universe of organizations that work through communities across, particularly in the Anacostia area. Tell us a little bit more about ACC and why ACC got involved in this.
Oh, thank you, Denise. As a matter of fact, the Anacostia Coordinating Council will be celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, all through the year. ACC began 40 years ago when a group of community leaders came together to lobby to make sure that the Anacostia Green Line was indeed going to open, because there was some discussion of not having it come here. And so once it did open in 1991, there was a discussion as to whether ACC should continue. And so the thinking then was that now that the metro stations open, usually when there are metro stations opening, there should be some economic development energy going around it. And so the organizers, the founders, decided to keep ACC going. I did not get involved with ACC until 10 years later, and then I was I was appointed executive director back in 1995, and so far I've been the only executive director. But AC is a dramatic example of mission creep, where eventually ACC got involved in practically anything in the community from A to Z, whether it's from A to zoning. People started to contact ACC, and basically became a vehicle for people coming together to discuss issues in a non-adversarial way, to work together in terms of partnerships. We have over 50 community partnerships with ACC, and even though we're one of the smallest nonprofits in the city, I'm the only full-time staff person. We've been able to get involved with a number of issues, and not only get involved, but many times be in the forefront of issues, such as we were out there for K2, but they were out front on the opioid situation. We were out front in terms of drug paraphernalia, and so, in terms of the violence, we started the display of the unsolved homicides years ago, and when this happened, of course, we just came together. And it just so happens that both Andy and Ron are members of our board, and we have a board that is very diverse and that really reflects the community and the best aspirations of the community. So that's why ACC was involved, and that's why we're going to stay involved. And by the way, this do not thou shall not kill movement. There's no expiration date on our movement. So we will be doing many things. And Andy chairs weekly meetings, I believe, at the Anacostia Bus Boys and Poets. So I will just say that this, as Ron said, every movement needs some type of spark. So our spark is the visual or posts, but watch out for us. There's going to be more coming. So news at 11.
All righty.
This part started 3,000 years ago with Moses. So, thou shalt not kill has been around for centuries. So let's also put that out there. I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that there are certain foundational things that we forget about. And
No question.
This is one other way to do that.
Well, I want to thank you all for being with us and for talking about this Thou Shalt Not Move movement. If folks, again, Andy, you said if people want the signs, they can go to any Bus Boys and Poets in DC, or is Maryland and Virginia included in this as well?
We have them in all the DC locations so far, but we're also going to put them in Maryland and Virginia as well. I think
Wonderful.
This is obviously a nationwide issue, not just a DC issue.
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, this show is, Washington Informer. We're all local. We're all in the community, but, it's the internet, so it can go anywhere. So we ask anybody that decides to join this movement and create signs. I don't know if we've created a website or anything, but that would be really cool, for folks to start posting their thou shalt not kill signs somewhere, so that we can actually, overcome or overtake these young people's platforms and some of the others and put those signs up in the middle of their crazy conversations. But I want to thank you all for being with us today. And I know that we're going to be out in full force at the MLK parade on Monday at 11 o'clock. People can come if they're going to walk in the Peace Walk or whatever. We'll have signs available for you there. So thank you all for being with us. Ron, don't go away, because we've got to talk to you a little bit more about your program. But I want to thank you and Phil, Andy and Phil, for being with us. Thank you so much. God bless. See you Monday.
Okay.
All righty. So we are going to keep you here, Ron, because I want to talk about the conference that you're doing on Saturday. I'm one of your biggest fans. Let me start with that, because you have shown such dedication and a passion, for the community. And And so this is the conference, and the topics that you come up with, I think, are truly creative. Let's talk about what you're going to do on Saturday. And we need you to unmute yourself, please.
We have several conversations going on that I think are timely and needed, as we normally do every year with the MLK weekend activities leading up to his birthday. And, we have a lot going on in our community. I call it spiritual warfare, what we're dealing with. And one of the conversations is called love and order. Can they coexist? In my eyes, that means, can we love our community, but also have some order and accountability? And how do we do that balance without going back to the old ways of dealing with problems in our community, which is like mass incarceration and things of that nature? How do we utilize all these resources that are in our community right now, and then filling the gaps where they're not? So having a conversation, we just added the Attorney General also just agreed to be a part of the panel. So we have Chief Conti, the new Deputy Director of Public Safety, Deputy Mayor of Public Safety. We have Thenie Freeman, who's the new Deputy Director of Department of Recs, the new Attorney General, Mr. Swab. So I think we have a powerful panel, and a lot of community activists and leaders and people from the community will be coming out at the Anacostia Arts Center where we had that conversation. Then we have another conversation.
And this is on Saturday from?
Well, we started the first discussion with youth at 11. So it's from 11 to 6. And we close out with the experience band and show. And we in between each conversation, we're going to have some poetry, some positive hip hop with young people. And then we'll close out with the experience band. We have another conversation called Coaching Away Violence. A lot of our coaches are dealing with a lot of these young people that we're talking about, teenagers. Sadly, they're not equipped with the resources to go past football. Sometimes they are spending their money and all their time when they're on the field, but they're bringing all these children from these different neighborhoods that a lot of times have conflicts or don't work together. But we look at that as a way that we can help empower them to utilize that strength that they have, those relationships, to deal with young people while they old, but grow those relationships from these different neighborhoods and schools past the football field. So having that conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you 1 second, because last night I got stuck on the TV series with Deion Sanders, who was coaching the Jackson State University. And I don't football team. I don't know about the politics and all the controversy about him leaving Jackson State, but that is a must see. It's a must see. And it just certainly reinforces the power and influence of coaches. And I love that panel that you're going to do, because coaches need support. And so if you get a chance, check it out. I mean, it's six or something. I don't know.
We
but
have
anyway,
a couple of young people on the panel. One of the young people was a football star. And one time somebody said something about his girlfriend on social media, and he went and took a gun and shot somebody. And he's on the panel, but explaining to young people about that situation. Then we have, like I say, different coaches who work with young people from Little League all the way up to Dunbar High School.
Nice.
And they're going to share their experiences, why this is so important.
And I'm going to also I'm sorry, interrupt you one, because I grew up in recreation centers. I played what they used to call powder puff football, which was flag football, quarterback, believe it or not, and softball and something else. But I needed that. And those coaches, I understood how much they really appreciated who we were as young people. And these were girls. That's the point I'm trying to make. We were all girls. So, it works both ways.
Second force outside of the household. That's
exactly.
positive.
Exactly.
Positive.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to have that conversation. Then we have a conversation around music, because we know the influence that music has on our young people. And we've been working on that for the last year, and we try to really elevate that whole movement, because we have to give young people platforms to create positive music, positive content, and get attention for it. And we have to also incentivize it, because young people are getting incentivized to do crazy things. And if we don't change that, then our young people will continuously be influenced, and not necessarily just children who come from impoverished communities. These are children all over our city, all over the world, who are reenacting what they see on social media, in songs, in video games, etc. So we're dealing with that. And then I just think that it's important to listen to our young people. So, any young people who can come at 11 o'clock to be a part of the roundtable that's going to be facilitated by Jamal Holtz, another young guy who does a lot of things in the community. I think it's important to hear from them, because they know things that we don't know. They feel things that we don't feel, and we need to hear their voices.
Wonderful. I am, just glad that you were able to take a little time out to talk about that. Again, it's on Saturday. Give us the details again.
11 a.m., the Anacostia Arts Center, right on Good Hope Road. And we'll be going to 6:40. We'll close out with the band at 6 o'clock. So we'll be there. Come whenever you can. You can go to my Instagram page, Ronald Moulton, to see all the flyers. You go to Washington Formal website, holiday page, and see all the information. But tell a friend. We gotta roll our sleeves up and get involved. We can't just wait until we see a young child shot to be outraged. Let's prevent it from happening. Yes. And we can't just look at one side of the coin. We got to look at the whole aspect of things. How do these things happen?
Ron Moulton, thank you so very much for being with us. And we'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okie doke. Bye-bye. Speaking of MLK and events that are coming up, and we're so glad that Ron Moulton was able to pull, and his team were able to pull this event together. But, we are looking forward to the big MLK holiday peace walking parade that's going to take place on Monday, January 16th. I am really honored to have Stuart Anderson, Reverend Wanda Thompson, Minister Norman Nixon, and Dr. Nicole Johnson Douglas, all who are playing critical parts in putting this event together. So, Stuart, I want you to open us up and just, give that big blast about what's going to happen on Saturday. And then we're going to kind of peel away the onion and talk about the other parts to this that really make this commemoration what it is.
Let me first apologize for the lighting in my office. I have no idea what's going on.
All right. Well, what we're going to do while you figure out the lighting, Reverend Thompson, I'm going to go to you.
Okay.
Let's talk about the prayer breakfast.
All right. Well, the prayer breakfast is going to be held on Saturday from 10 to 12. It's going to be at the Black Box on the campus of the ARC, 1801 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. And tickets are still available. The donation is $25. People can register online, or they can come. We have a limited number that will be available at the door. And during the prayer breakfast, of course, we're going to be honoring Dr. King. We're going to have prayer. We're going to have song. We're going to have performances. We're going to have the spoken word. Our guest speaker is the Reverend Dr. E. Gail Anderson Holness, who's a local attorney. But not only is she an attorney, she's also the liaison from the Department of Behavioral Health to local churches as well, too. She's a dynamic speaker, as she often says, from the soils of South Carolina. So we're just grateful and looking forward to having everybody to come out. And we just invite everybody, again, to come out and join us Saturday, 10 to 12 on the campus of the ARC at the Black Box, 1801 Mississippi Avenue Southeast.
I always want to thank you, Dr. Thompson, Reverend Dr. Thompson, for coordinating this prayer breakfast every year. And it's really a great event. And you just don't, I know that when we say prayer breakfast, we're not just talking about Christian prayer, right?
Exactly.
So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. The affair is intergenerational, and it's also interfaith. And over the years, we've had representation from the Christian, the Muslim, and the Jewish community. This year, we will be having prayers by the Christian and the Muslim communities. Unfortunately, this year I wasn't able to secure a rabbi to come. If anyone's listening and you are interested, you can contact me. We certainly have room for that. But again, it is intergenerational, interfaith, and that's because we want this to be an inclusive affair. And so again, we just encourage everyone to come out because Dr. King was about inclusivity.
Right. Okay. And if I have to say so myself, the food is always great.
Absolutely.
Good breakfast. So, Dr. Nicole Johnson Douglas and Norm Nixon, you all are bringing in this youth component. We've been talking about youth, but you all are actually bringing, where we'll get a chance to see the talents of our young people. Talk about the Youth Leadership Institute and what you all have in store on Saturday. And either one of you can start that conversation.
Well, I guess I'll start. So we have pulled together the essay contest for our young people of the District of Columbia, grades 4 through 12. And we have been able to touch every sector of our education system, which we're excited about. We had 106 young people to enter this year.
That's amazing.
This is the first year since we have taken on this task that we have reached the 100 mark, but also exceeded the 100 mark. I heard you talk about those young ladies, and I heard them talk about the need to start young. I want to say our middle schoolers really brought it home. There were 60 middle schoolers that participated in this year's essay contest, which is oftentimes that age group that's oftentimes forgotten about. So I am really glad that they were able to participate. Our young people wrote on the topic, the dream, what does it mean to you? And on tomorrow, Saturday, January 14th at 1 p.m. at the DOES Community Room located at 4058 Minnesota Avenue Northeast, we will be announcing our winners of each category, where each of our divisions will have a first, second, and third place winner. Our first place winners will receive $300 as well as have their essays published by the Washington Informer. Our second prize winner will receive $200, and our third prize winners will receive $100. And this has been a labor of love that has been produced by the Mayor's Youth Leadership Institute Alumni Association, as well as a number of our partnering organizations that we definitely appreciate. And I'm going to let Norm talk about our intentional effort to bring unity to this for this year.
Thanks, Norman. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. Our future is, because next year she's going to be the chair. I'm handing over the mantle already.
I know that.
One of the things I always said about what we do, we bring so many people together with this effort, is that we have to continue to work together throughout the year. We can't shut down after the parade is over. And this year, we have every Divine Nine organization, the Prince Hall Masons, the Order of the Eastern Star are involved. They were judges this year for the competition, and they have agreed to do some things together jointly. And the AKAs are even doing a service project that day with us. So that's phenomenal. And I told them I'm going to work you all. And next year, hopefully, I'm setting already a pre-goal. I said next year we're gonna get 200. We're gonna get 200 essays in.
Well, the numbers have gone up every year, and every time we talk about, or I hear you all talk about doing an essay contest, there's always that voice in the room that says, which I'm not saying they're incorrect, but saying kids don't write essays. That's not what we ought to do. We ought to do, which is fun, spoken word, art, photography, and at some point it may expand to those things. But the point is that essays are growing every year, and more young people are participating. And you all just need to be really commended for I mean, just making it happen. You just make it happen. And how did it happen? What did you all do? Just put a notice out or what?
I think we've worked over the years with teachers and administrators in the schools, and we've had classrooms that just the teacher makes that an assignment for the young people during their winter break. And so we've grown that, and I really think that this is therapy for young people too, because they write about these topics and it makes them go within the side of themselves and really think about what's on their mind. And so I think that's so very important as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to read them, at least the first place winners. And I might, depending on space, we might have to make some space for the second and third. Why not?
Right.
I remember, I'm going to tell a quick story, but when I first met Councilmember Trayon White, I'm trying to find it now. He was upset because the school wanted to kick him off the basketball team because he was locking his hair. And it just happened to be around the time of the Martin Luther King holiday. And I said, why don't you, since you want to stand for something, write an essay about how Dr. King's life influenced you? And he did. So I'm trying to find that because I'm going to try to pull it out and see where he is today. And you all can say the same thing about the Institute's Alumni Association and some of the leaders in our community that came through that program. So kudos to you all. Stuart, are you ready to talk about the parade and Peace Walk? You can unmute yourself now.
Yes.
You got light.
First
I
and
see the
foremost,
light.
I'm gonna bring. I figured the light out. I thought it was good, but I guess not. But it's great now. I think that I've been in the presence of everybody on the show today, except for Dr. Nicole. Happy New Year's, Dr. Nicole. So look, man, we are all set for MLK Holiday DC, honoring life and legacy of one of our greatest civil rights leader, 2023. We are actually 2 days and about 14 hours away from being in the streets, and it looks like we're going to have a lovely day for the celebration.
Fantastic.
So I've heard Ron, everybody talked about some of what we're going to be having as it relates to the parade. Of course, I have a few people sitting in a conference room now. We're working out and we're working on this. If you're listening now, stop calling us. Stop calling us. We're going to call you as soon as we get this lineup together. We're working on this lineup right now to get everything. We want to balance it out, make it look great, make it look good. So on Monday, January 16th, assembly will start at 9 a.m. We're going to convene. The staging area will be the Rise Center, 2730 MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. That's where we'll start at. Most people who participate in this parade, you know where it is. We're asking people to take public transportation and let us shuttle you up from.
So that's for I want to talk about the general audience, Stuart, because you're giving, we're going to have 1,000 people trying to get on a shuttle. So, the general public just needs to know what.
So basically that we're going the route from the Rise Center to Anacostia Park. We're going north on MLK or down MLK, depending on your vantage point and how you make the statement. So we'll start at the step off will be 11 a.m. The parade will lead the Rise and it'll end in our reviewing stand. It'll be on MLK between W and V. For those who have been confused about, well, what about this peace walk? And I thought you start at 10. What is going on? So the peace walk will start where Malcolm and Martin meet. That's Malcolm X Avenue, Martin Luther King Avenue, right in Shepherd Park. There'll be a rally there. There'll be a little bit of a peace rally. After the peace rally, they'll step off. Depending on the number of people, could change that step off time. But right now, the step off time for the peace walk is by 10:45. The peace walkers will be moving down MLK, going north on MLK, past the Rise Center. And as they pass the Rise Center, the parade procession will begin to come out onto MLK and go north on MLK, down MLK, past Matthews Memorial, Campbell Baptist Church, Bethlehem, across Howard Road, and past the reviewing stand, and then we'll get the good old road, and we'll make that left going right into the Anacostia Park where the procession will end.
Want to also bring out the fact that you have the 4 grand marshals. One just happens to be on this screen. But when you talk, can you talk about the grand marshals that we're going to honor this year?
We have 4 phenomenal grand marshals. These are people who have been doing great work in the community. And as Denise Rolock Bonds has just said, we have Pastor Wanda Thompson from Ambassador Baptist Church right here with us on the screen. She is one of our grand marshals. Also, many of you will remember Yango Sawyer Ill. Yango Sawyer Ill has been involved with the Peace Walk and the parade forever. He's a guy who actually brought me to the table. We're honoring Yango as a grand marshal this year, 2023. Along with Dr. Thompson and Yango, we're also honoring and lifting up Sandra Seegers, a well-known community activist who lives right here in Ward 8. She's I don't know if she's Ward 8 Etonian or not, but she lives right here with us. She's been with us. She's been trying to protect this community. So we're lifting her up as one of our grand marshals, along with none other than the president of the University of the District of Columbia, Mr. Ron Mason. And so Pastor Thompson, she got to work, so she's not gonna ride in the procession, right? But you'll see her around, right? She's gonna be doing some work. She was like, y'all can honor somebody else. But we did a poll, and that's how we got to these 4 grand marshals who we would be lifting up, because the work that they do is in line with the ideas, the dreams, and the philosophies of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And whether people know it or not, the University of the District of Columbia has had a branch of the university over here in Southeast for many years, but now they're in the old Congress High School, where there's a lot of adult education classes going on. So we really welcome them and welcome President Mason. Reverend Thompson, you had a word?
She's muted.
Yes.
I don't know how to unmute myself.
There you go.
You're good.
All right. Yes. I just wanted to say, for all of the events we have, I guess we should also mention our theme, which is recapture the dream. Yes. Lift every voice till victory is won. So that's the theme across all of our events.
Yes, recapture the dream, lift every voice till victory is won. So people will know that we got those from a couple of different places, and we put them all together. We put a lot of thoughts into this. And as you all know, we've been blessed to have Martin Luther King III with us in the past, and his family. We haven't gotten word that they're going to come this year, but sometimes they just show up. And I know that Ron Moten was trying to get Stevie Wonder back here because we wanted to also uplift the happy birthday song. We actually should have ended with that, but I don't know how YouTube would have handled that. But at any rate, looks like it's going to be a great affair. Any closing remarks from anybody?
And come on out. Bring the family out. It's going to be warm. Get your lawn chairs. All that complaining we do about people sitting on our corners, we're not going to complain on Monday. Y'all come on out with your lawn chairs.
And know that MPD will be closing down Martin Luther King Avenue early on Monday morning. So you are going to have to get out early, 9:30. Yeah.
If you need to go across the 11th Street Bridge to get away from Southeast, or you need to get in Southeast, make sure you do it before 9:30. MPD will close it down from Malcolm X to Good Hope Road. All righty. I want to thank you all for being with us. Most of all, thank you for the hard work that you've done. I know all of those members of the civil rights movement who are no longer with us, but looking down on us. I'm hoping that we are making them happy and proud to know that we're keeping not only Dr. King's legacy alive, but also the whole legacy of the movement. Talking about movements, the movement to make this community a better place. Yes. And you all play such a vital role in that. So thank you for being with us today. All right. Bye. See you shortly. How about that? All right. So we are, as always, over time, but I cannot end this program without talking to Nolan Carr, who's the Marketing and Communications Relations Manager with the Mara Group.
DC, who has stepped in and is sponsoring, helping to sponsor our the MLK Holiday DC Health and Wellness Fair. Nolan, thank you for your patience and for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me, Denise. It's great to be here.
And so, why did you all decide to step in and step up?
So, we really pride ourselves in being out in the community, being an active part of the community. So we saw what was going on, all the great activities and engagement aligned with the mission and the legacy of Dr. King, and we wanted to be a part of it. So we tried to figure out, where we fit and how we could support. Our mission here with the Mayor Group DC is really to have a healthier DC, right? So this weekend's MLK activities will also include a hopeful healing wellness fair. So you mentioned the health fair, and that's going to start over there at 2006 MLK Ave. So we're proud to be a sponsor along with Whitman Walker and the work organization. And we thought it would be just a great opportunity to continue to promote health and wellness to residents across DC. At the health fair, there'll be a variety of health screenings available, including things but not limited to blood pressure checks, diabetes screening, information on nutrition. So, when an opportunity presented itself, how could we not be a part of it?
One of the things that I think about, Nolan, sometimes when they have these health fairs take place, and you actually catch someone whose high blood pressure is above what it should be, or you see some kind of negative diabetes results. How are those individuals referred, or what happens?
Yeah, so at that time, depending on what their results are, if they need some follow-up treatment or screening, things like that, they're able to get some linkage to care to make referrals to other organizations that may be able to serve them. Like I said, Whitman Walker Health is going to be there. So, maybe an opportunity to get appointments with them. But we want them to go ahead and get screened and be aware to promote preventative care, but then link them to folks where they can have these appointments and get ongoing treatment. So it's not just a stopgap. We're focused on ongoing care and getting folks to appointments for health.
So I know our coordinator for the health fair is also really focused on mental health. Mm-hmm, and I know that there's going to be some yoga and some other things there that will be resources for people that, may be going through some issues or some crisis right now. And so is AmeriGroup doing anything in that area as well?
Yeah, so we'll be promoting that and sharing in that space, really making sure folks that are aware, if you're dealing with stress, sharing different self-care tips to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. In the future, we'll be having some community activities and events around meditation, making sure that you're focusing in on yourself and not letting the world and stress overwhelm you. So yoga is definitely a good practice that will be there on site, but we want to continue that and have events and outreach ongoing throughout the community in the future. So we'll definitely be offering some of that stuff in the future and look forward to having it this weekend at the health fair.
And share with us where the health fair, I know, but share with us where the health fair tent will be stationed.
Right. So if you're familiar with that MLK Ave, the exact address is going to be that 2006 MLK Ave Southeast. You'll see us out there, a bunch of tents, a bunch of community organizations, different health vendors. It's just going to be a great time. I invite you all to come out, get some information on health and wellness. We'll be giving away hats and gloves and stuff too. So we're going to try to make sure you leave with something and get some information as well.
DC is one of these places where we probably have the greatest, universal health coverage for the district. But can people still, if they don't have health insurance, is AmeriGroup there to direct them as well?
Yeah, so AmeriGroup DC, essentially we're a managed care organization. Mm-hmm. So folks who may be eligible for Medicaid, we would be open to managing their health insurance and serving them in the future. But if they're not eligible for Medicaid, we definitely want to link them to services, being able to provide resources where they can apply for other types of insurance as well.
Wonderful. Okay, well, it's great that you're going to be out there. This is really key. It's important to the whole mission of a healthy community. And glad that AmeriGroup is doing its part to make sure that we get there and stay there.
Yes, so I appreciate you having us.
Yeah. Anything you want to add before I close?
No, I just said, we have to work effectively with community organizations, faith-based organizations, as well as great media outlets like yourself to spread the message and the importance of health and wellness to our neighbors across DC. There's no better time to do that during MLK weekend, MLK Day. There's no better place to continue the legacy of service that Dr. King set than the nation's capital. America Group DC is proud to be involved and proud to support.
All right. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that, Nolan. And we'll see you on Monday.
All right. See you Monday. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So this brings us to the end of an extended program today. We really hope that you enjoyed what you've heard, that you will be able to come out and participate in some of these activities, that you take something away from the activities that will help to extend this whole movement of a healthy community. Like we say, if you think something needs to be done, then you need to figure out what you can do, what something is that you can do to make this a better place to live for all of our families in the DMV. I'm honored that you stayed with us today, if you've been able to stay through the whole program or at least caught a little bit of it. Make sure you share this with your friends and family. Remember, WIN TV airs every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. So have a wonderful weekend. Happy Martin Luther King Day on Monday, and we'll see you next week, same place, same time. This is Denise Rollard Barnes saying farewell. Mm-mm. Yeah, but not.
Okay.